So with week 14 in the books and the Jaguars winning against the Titans in a matchup of who is going to drop in the draft order first, we have a new number one, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. So that puts us in a position that Travis Hunter just might not be going number one, because the Raiders are not in position to take Travis Hunter right now and then wait a whole other year for another QB. They have some players right now that can handle their own, and they have a certain somebody by the name of Max Crosby that they should not try to test his patience in terms of getting a QB or not. You can figure out the wide receivers in future drafts. You can get them low in the drafts, or you can just figure it out as you go in free agency. But right now in this one, you need to go QB. And still, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. There's no other option for the Raiders with the way that things have been shaping out for this draft. Shedeur Sanders is a very mature pocket passer, never crossing one turnover-worthy play in any of the games this season, statistically wise. Yes, he had a game that he had 2 interceptions. I'm almost certain that that's the one that a ball was popped up into the air and it went to the opposer. He can't control that. He can only control what he can, but he improved a lot from previous seasons, and especially last season in his first year inside of a legitimate conference with Colorado. Now, going into the NFL, he still needs some development, but he has a very high ceiling, and I think that's what the Raiders would try to go after. Now, this is a position at pick number 2 for the New York Giants that if we had trades in this draft, we would probably be doing it. But with the Giants right now, you have an option to go with Cam Ward or Travis Hunter. If you pass up on Travis Hunter at this position, I don't think a lot of people are going to love it, because then you'd be giving him to somebody like the Patriots, who already have a QB, or the Panthers, who can use him on both sides. Travis Hunter is a player that if he falls out of the number 1 pick, it doesn't matter what you're trying to go after, you should go after Travis Hunter no matter what. I think they can wait another year for QB, and if not, get a bridge quarterback like a Justin Fields. Probably can just be the quarterback for the New York Giants for the future. Maybe they sign him to a 2-3 year deal, and if they end up not playing well next season with Travis Hunter on the roster, with Justin Fields or Sam Darnold or one of those free agency quarterbacks, they could look for a quarterback in the next one, and that is the year that Arch Manning is gonna be eligible. Now, if he goes into that draft, I don't know. But it's possible that you can get Travis Hunter and also get a very high talent in another Manning coming out of the draft class. And I think with the way that they've already messed up letting Saquon Barkley go to the Eagles, and some players walking that they probably shouldn't have let walk, I think this is the best case scenario for the New York Giants, with the Raiders getting a number 1 pick and them getting Travis Hunter. And they've seen with his conditioning that he can be on the field basically at all times. And to be honest, that's just what they need. They need somebody that's going to be consistent and be there at all times. As we move on to the New England Patriots at pick number 3, which a lot of fans, a lot of analysts are moving away from them getting an offensive lineman, because a lot of the offensive linemen in this draft are not top 3 worthy to draft. Now, the Patriots could trade down if they really want to go offensive linemen, but they can go a situation right now that they haven't been able to go in a lot of years, or haven't wanted to go in a lot of years, and that is getting a weapon for Drake May. Yes, I did take T-Mac in a previous draft class, but he is a true X-receiver and could really, really help a lot in that Patriots offense to actually have that wide receiver 1 that they haven't had. And I think what they can do with the offensive lineman is they can look at the free agency as well. I mean, I don't know if Cam Robinson has signed an extension with the Vikings just yet, but he is a free agent, as far as I know as of right now. You can go get him and add him to that offensive line, keep bolstering it with different free agency. I think you should invest more into offensive line and then get the talent positions in the draft so you don't have to pay them immediately. you should pay for an offensive lineman since it's so hit or miss sometimes in the draft that they can either be a Joe Thomas or they can be a Charles Cross. You pick your poison there. But moving on to a Carolina Panthers team that has been coming up and could possibly be 6-7 right now, but have lost on game-winning drives or overtime or things of that nature. They are looking for talent. And as of right now, the best talent on the board that they could use is Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter has this wicked twitch that I have not seen in an edge of his size really ever, or really in my entire time of looking at these prospects. I think that with him going to that Panthers D-line, it would bring not only more talent, but more youth, because their best edge rusher right now is Jadeveon Clowney. He's not going to be there very long. And you need to have somebody that's going to be reliable for the future. They traded Brian Burns because they didn't want to pay him. I get it. Abdul Carter can fix that and be able to fill that role with his versatility, his athleticism. You just can't go wrong with Abdul Carter going to the Carolina Panthers. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, who dropped from the 1 spot to the 5 spot after losing or after winning against the Titans, are in a position now that cornerback isn't really something, or defensive back isn't a situation that they should probably go for. Right now, I have them taking Will Campbell. Will Campbell, whether you use him at tackle, whether you use him at guard, he is still a very talented offensive lineman, and adding him to that Jaguars offensive line is only going to help Trevor Lawrence, because he is practically getting sacked every other play, and you can't be having that with the quarterback that you just signed for $50 to $55 million a year, who just became so injured that he's on the IR and won't be returning for the season, and that basically packs it up for the Jaguars this season. So Will Campbell should be drafted by them. Where they put him, I don't really care. I think they just should go after him and figure that out as they go, because offensive line is so desperate of a need to help Trevor Lawrence out, as the Tennessee Titans are on the board, and this is where I'm going to have Cam Ward going. I think him already dropping to this spot is surprising in itself, but the Titans can't really pass this up. You have Will Levis, but are you really going to deal with Will Levis for another year and risk possibly not getting a player like Cam Ward, who already, in my opinion, is better than Will Levis, even coming out of college? And right now, I would have Cam Ward performing much better with the weapons that the Titans have than Will Levis can. And I don't think they pass that up at all. I don't. And Cam Ward is just such a mature passer. And while he probably doesn't have the same ceiling as Shedeur Sanders, he has a much higher floor, has still a great ceiling, and I think he's going to be the better quarterback at the end of it. Now, if I'm wrong, it's because, Shedeur Sanders has Deion Sanders blood. But Cam Ward, through these years, has developed so much as a pocket passer, as somebody who can go through his progressions, is very sound in his passing game, and just is so poised in the pocket, almost like a Bryce Young coming out of college poise. And I don't think a team can pass up on that whenever they're hesitant on their QB situation at the moment, especially with T-Mac coming off the board already. As the New York Giants are here at the 7th spot, and Mason Graham, the game record that he is, I don't have him going any further than this. He is an insane talent, and I was hesitant for a while to take him in the top 10, but with the way that he played in a big-time game against Ohio State and the impact that he had to help Michigan win that game, putting him next to Quinnen Williams would only cause nightmares for QBs every single week that they have to face him, and especially in the AFC East. I think that's the best case scenario for the Jets because of the defense kind of lacking and their pass rush kind of lacking. They need help. They need talent, and bringing Mason Graham in is only going to help them. As we move on to the Cleveland Browns, who could be looking at several different scenarios, I'm going to have them looking at edge as of right now. and that's going to be Mykel Williams. I've been enjoying watching him even more now, and especially in these big-time games that he's had, he has performed so well. And he's such a physical specimen that it almost doesn't make sense because of the way that he performs in the run game. He is such a good run defender that you're only hoping that he's going to get even better at the pass rush. And going to a situation like the Cleveland Browns and playing next to Myles Garrett is only going to help his career, the Cleveland Browns, and Myles Garrett, because it's going to take a lot of the attention off of Myles Garrett, which they have been trying to do for years with Zadarius Smith, with Jadeveon Clowney. They've tried it over and over and over again with no luck or not much luck compared to what they could possibly do with Mykel Williams, and it would just help that run defense so much as the Chicago Bears are here. And while a lot of Chicago Bears fans are in denial, and I had a few in a past mock draft say there's no way the Bears take Ashton Jeanty, with some weeks through, I think we can say that there's a way that Ashton Jeanty goes to the Chicago Bears. The inconsistency of this Bears backfield is almost nauseating because of DeAndre Swift having a good game here but a shit game here. You can't have those type of scenarios with a young quarterback like Caleb Williams. You have to have that talent in the backfield that he can go to, that he can rely on. Whether he's a pass catcher or not, you still have DeAndre Swift on contract, and I don't think you utilize DeAndre Swift for anything else because Ashton Jeanty is going to take over that run game and just take it to a new level. If that translates from his current conference right now in the Mountain West, I don't know, but I think his pure raw talent is going to show out. I mean, he had 2,500 yards, I think. Yeah, 2,500 yards, 7.3 yards per carry with 30 touchdowns on the year, and he is a Heisman finalist, which we will find out, I think, this Friday or Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Ashton Jeanty can't go anywhere but Chicago, as the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and while this says wide receiver and defensive line, I am looking at somebody that can fill that spot. And he goes by the name of Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker could be joining a scenario that the Bengals look to find a new defensive coordinator with the way that the defense has played this year. And immediately a defensive coordinator is going to be looking for more flexibility on their defensive line. And they need some more of that in that Bengals room. Jalen Walker would bring that because he can pass rush and he can play as an off-ball linebacker. I don't think you get much more better of a prospect for this Bengals situation as you do with Jalen Walker coming out of Georgia. And like I said, he's the perfect complement of Mykel Williams. He could be the perfect complement to Trey Hendrickson. I think it would be beautiful. As the New Orleans Saints are looking into replacing somebody that they ended up trading at the trade deadline by the name of Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore, of course, we all know was a very standout cornerback, and they can't go another year without getting some sort of acquisition in this cornerback room. And Will Johnson is really here for the taking. He is a big and physical outside corner who has gone toe-to-toe with some of the best in college football. And I don't think they can go anywhere else but corner. I've had them taking defensive line. I've had them taking edge, maybe like a Nick Scorton, or previously maybe even Mason Graham, I think, is a position that I've had them taking. But in this one, I'm going to have Will Johnson. With that trade, with the way that the corners have performed in that Saints defense, I can't imagine anything else. He's won every matchup that he's faced in college football this season. Can't imagine a better scenario. Dallas Cowboys at the 12th spot. Now with Ashton Jeanty going at 9, that for sure pick is now gone for them. And with this scenario, with Jalen Walker also being off the board, with Mason Graham off the board, with Ashton Zenzi, they basically should just be looking for talent at this point. And while their safety room is very solid, Malachi Starks is just sitting here for the taking, and you could not have a cleaner prospect than him, and we haven't seen a cleaner prospect at safety in a while coming out of the draft. He can cover like a corner, he can tackle like a linebacker. There's not a lot of holes in his game. I can't imagine the Cowboys passing up on Malachi Starks with all the other positions that they need out of the draft board. And the Miami Dolphins are a team that I am disappointed about, but also excited about because they could be getting a premier tackle in Kelvin Banks Jr. This is the type of tackle that would thrive in a Mike McDaniel's offense because he thrives in going out into space and catching somebody to block. And he can go and play at guard for the time being until Teron Armstead retires because he is only aging. Hasn't really played to the same level as what they expected him to. Kelvin Banks can play on that offensive line, get some experience at guard, but then move to left tackle once Teron Armstead is out, and then he will still be that great offensive lineman that Mike McDaniel would need for the future if Mike McDaniel is still the head coach by the time that Teron Armstead retires. But the Indianapolis Colts, also in a scenario that had Malachi Starks going there for sure, now are going to be looking at defensive line. And I'm going to have Derek Harmon out of Oregon going to the Indianapolis Colts. Might be scratching your head a little bit, but compared to his season last year with the Michigan State Michigan State Spartans, Jesus, he only had 20 pressures. Going to Oregon this year, he has 50. He can only help that run defense that the Colts kind of lack at points. And I think this would be a great pick for them coming out of college. And I think that he's going to continue to perform well through this playoffs, and he'll show out. And maybe even in the combine, we'll see even more of his name coming up. But the Atlanta Falcons at the 15th spot, with my favorite pick for them since the very beginning, since he dropped out of the top 3, since he dropped out of the top 5, is going to be James Pierce Jr. Once I'm able to find him. This pass rush is so piss poor that they can't go anywhere else but edge rusher, and especially with a lightning rod like James Pierce coming out of Tennessee, with the talent that he has, with the physical traits that he has, they cannot go anywhere else but that. They should have done it last year, but they took Michael Penix. They can't fuck that up again. They can't. But the Arizona Cardinals went defensive line last year with Darius Robinson. Very solid pickup. But I'm going to have them taking somebody else that can help out even more in this defense. And that's going to be Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart, while the Cardinals D-line looks okay, adding a player like Shamar with his inside versatility should only complement Darius Robinson and would start this consistency of defending the run that the Cardinals have lacked for a while now. And I think it'll be beautiful going forward as the San Francisco 49ers are only looking at tackle. And Ursary is the only option that would be of value. While he might be sitting for a while behind Trent Williams, we saw how thin they are at the tackle position with the way that Trent Williams was out and their offensive line basically falling apart from there. He's going to be sitting behind him, but if he faces another injury like he did this year or some unforsaken situation like Trent Williams faced this year, Ursary would be there for the taking of those snaps and be able to step up in those times so Trent Williams wouldn't have to stress as much to probably re-aggravate an injury or just come back earlier than he wants to. And moving on to the Los Angeles Rams, I can't imagine a better scenario for this tight end in Colston Loveland going to the Los Angeles Rams. They have lacked tight end for a little bit. Tyler Higbee has been fine, but now he dealt with an injury for most of the season. They've been dealing with Parkinson. If you add a young talent at tight end in Colston Loveland to a offense that has Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp already in it, it's going to put him in single coverage, and it's only going to help Colston Loveland because he has been so great in separating and being able to get out as a tight end. He was the number one receiver for the Michigan Wolverines for this entire season for a reason. So I can't imagine a better scenario for Colston Loveland and the LA Rams trying to help Matthew Stafford push for another Super Bowl, whether that's likely or not. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a impending free agent in Chris Godwin, who just dealt with an injury, a season-ending injury, and you hesitate to think if Chris Godwin's going to be back as a Buccaneer. You have a player of the talent of Luther Burden. Luther Burden is a steal at this position, in my opinion, because, yes, they have had some draft picks in the past of receiver already with McMillan from Washington and some other players like Trey Palmer and things like that, but they don't level up to Luther Burden's raw talent and his ability to get open with ease on one-cut routes, which would fill that Godwin position and the shoes that he would have to fill very easily. Luther Burden should be in top 5, top 10 conversations, but with the way that Mizzou decided to use him, or the QB just decided to be piss poor the entire season, it made his draft stock plummet significantly, and him going to the Bucs would be beautiful for Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. As the Washington Commanders are looking at this market for the tackle and might not like it that much, I'm going to have them taking a defensive lineman. And he goes by the name of Mike Green. Now, this is more of a fit for the Dan Quinn defense. He is the leader in FBS and sacks at 17. With the offensive lineman shortage in this draft of value to be able to add at this position, Mike Green just seems like the scenario that they would go with the most. As much as I want to go Nick Scorton, as much as I want to go LT Overton or a Jack Sawyer or Princely, I like Mike Green in terms of the match with Dan Quinn. And I'm kind of hesitating a little bit now, but I think I'm going to stick with it. I think I am. He's just a loose and flexible athlete. I just think Dan Quinn's going to utilize him a lot. As the Chargers are here at the 21st spot, and it's very clear what they're going to be getting in my eyes, and that's going to be Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren has been the focal point of this Penn State offense. He is the definition of reliable for them, and I think he can continue to be that for Justin Herbert, because we've seen how Justin Herbert has struggled with the unreliability that he's had at the tight end position in terms of either injuries or just pure talent. Tyler Warren has been a man amongst boys in the collegiate level. Bringing a player of this talent to an offense with Harbaugh and Herbert, I can't imagine a better scenario for them. And the Denver Broncos, while they probably would want to add a wide receiver and maybe even tight end, both are not really of value at this point in the draft. And I'm going to have them taking LT Overton out of Alabama. And you have to look at the defense in that scenario. You have to. When the wide receivers and tight ends aren't really a pick that wouldn't be a reach at that position, LT Overton would be able to add to that already dynamic pass rush when he's able to win on the interior and the outside in his breakout season, breakout junior season at that in Alabama. And I think that he would add a lot to that defense. As the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock at the 23rd spot with Kenneth Grant as the man that I'm going to have taking, or Mike McDonald taking. He's known for his heavy amount of rotations on the defensive line, and both Hankins and Reed are hitting free agency, and this would be back-to-back years that the Seahawks would be going with the interior of the defensive line. While he is a project, he isn't standing out at Michigan for no reason. I think Mike McDonald would be able to utilize him to the best of his abilities, as another defensive tackle or defensive interior player is going to be coming off the board for the Baltimore Ravens. While he has had a very underwhelming season compared to the way that he started out, Deon Walker is a man of a size that you can't really teach his speed at 6'6" and 345. He is a behemoth, but the Ravens have a track record of being able to develop their defensive linemen, defensive interior at that, with Justin Madubuike and other players around him. If they're able to tap into his potential, he could be an all-pro. And that would be beautiful for the Ravens and for Deon Walker going into the future, as the Houston Texans will also be looking at the defensive interior. And this is kind of the drop that I had with the cornerbacks in the previous draft. But Walter Nolan out of Mississippi is the man I'm going to have the Houston Texans taking. I've always had the Houston Texans taking a defensive tackle or defensive interior player. And Walter Nolan is just able to reset the line of scrimmage on the interior. He's only scratching the surface in what he can do as a pass rusher. I think that he could get even better in this Houston Texans defense. I would just love to see him with the Texans, with their already dynamic duo in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. You put Walter Nolan in the middle of that. I don't think it could be a better scenario for both sides, as the Green Bay Packers at the 26th spot are going to be looking at corner for sure. And it could be Benjamin Morrison. It could be Jahdae Barron. Darian Porter. I've been big on him, but I think I'm going to wait till the draft combine and all that type of stuff comes and try to push Darian Porter a little more at that point. But Siobhan Revel had a insane start to the season before he tore his ACL. He has extremely good ball skills, and that would help this Green Bay Packers defense even more with their ball hawk type of defense that they like to run. And maybe even Xavier McKinney is the reason for that. But Siobhan Revel would complement that so well that I can't imagine him going anywhere else. Maybe the Vikings, but I don't think he'll fall past the Packers. As the Steelers, I'm going to have taking a cornerback as well who was banged up, and that is going to be Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morrison is another banged up corner, as I said, who fall just because of his hip injury, but he has a perfect man coverage skill set to pair with Joey Porter Jr., and Morrison can match with the speedier wideouts while Porter can press the bigger wide receivers. He has the size to be able to press the bigger wide receivers. Benjamin Morrison is going to be able to keep up with those faster receivers, and it will just be a very nice complement in that Steelers secondary. As we move on to the Minnesota Vikings, who probably would have been taking corner if both of these players weren't off the board already. But I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings take Nick Emanwari. Hopefully I'm saying that. Nick Emanwari out of South Carolina, who, for his size, can definitely replace Harrison Smith at the strong safety position, or the safety position in general. He is massive. At 6'3" and 227, he's able to blitz like a linebacker and still range with the best of them at the back end. It's the perfect weapon for a Brian Flores coach defense if Brian Flores is still even there by the time Harrison Smith is retired. But I think no matter what, any coach that's going to come in is going to look at him as that blitz-heavy safety that they can use and still be able to drop back. As the Buffalo Bills have been lacking in a certain place, which is the cornerback room. The cornerback room has been good in some scenarios. They did just get Micah Hyde back, and Micah Hyde is on the practice squad right now. I'm sure he's getting into game shape, and maybe he'll be on the team before the end of the season, before the playoffs. But with a free agent in Rasul Douglas, who I highly doubt that they're going to let walk, Barron has been lights out all season for the Longhorns. He's got 5 picks and 5 breakups on the outside this year after spending the past 2 years on in the slot. And I really think that he would be able to fill the shoes of Rasul Douglas if Rasul Douglas ends up leaving the Buffalo Bills. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I still think either way they need to add talent in the cornerback room because they have been getting beat downfield at points. Now, maybe a linebacker or somebody that can come down in the safety position who can stop the run could be a pickup. I just don't know who that would be at this very moment. As the Philadelphia Eagles at the 30th spot, while falling this far wasn't in a lot of people's plans for Nick Scorton, I still think that he has shown enough potential in his time at Purdue and also even at Texas A&M at the start of the season and even throughout. I think a lot of offenses focused very heavily on him, and it made Shamar Stewart excel. It made a lot of other players in that Texas A&M defense stand out. And I think it would be the best case scenario for this Philadelphia Eagles defense with the need at edge that they have. I like it a lot. I think that he can still stand out. I think he can. It's a risk, but I think the Eagles would be willing to take it with already most of their players being very talented as the Kansas City Chiefs should just be throwing darts at the board at this point to get a tackle. And I'm not even considering Josh Simmons at the moment. It would be between Wyatt Millum and Cameron Williams. And I'm leaning Cameron Williams simply because of the SEC talent that he's had to face and still excels in the pass protection that he plays in mostly, or that he excels in mostly. I think Cameron Williams is the best case scenario for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes with the way that the tackles have just not performed on that Chiefs offensive line and especially in pass protection. And the final pick of the draft with the Detroit Lions, they can really go anywhere. I'm going to go with the pick that would match Dan Campbell's culture, I would say. He's been standing out a bit more and may even be a reach at this point in the draft, but this is the type of guy that would thrive in a Dan Campbell-led team with the passion that he wants his team to play with and the true grit that he can get into the backfield, into the pocket, and make the quarterback either get pressured, get the sack, or even get a pick like he did against Michigan. And that's going to be Jack Sawyer coming out of Ohio State. I like him going to that Lions defensive line, and we see that they clearly need an excessive amount of depth in that line, and Jack Sawyer would just be able to complement either Aiden Hutchinson when he comes back, or if, God forbid, injuries plague them again, Jack Sawyer would be there to take over. I like this draft a lot. I think I continue to like it more and more as we go. Mike Green, I'm still a little hesitant on because he's coming out of Marshall. Might not excel in this Washington Commanders defense. Could have probably went with a different edge. Maybe LT Overton would have been a nice pickup for Washington. I just liked his stats. I liked his fit with the Dan Quinn defense. If you have any disagreements with me, maybe even this pick with Travis Hunter going to the Giants instead of a QB, let me know down in the comments below. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with y'all all. I like it. Maybe not as much as my last one. My last one I was a bit more confident in. This one I still like a good bit. I like Derek Harmon going to the Colts. I like Luther Burden going to the Bucks. A lot of these situations would be perfect. Just a little hesitant on the Mike Green situation. But yeah, if you did enjoy that, go down there and like so more people can see it, so we can have more of a combo down in the comments below. Let me know if you want to see more draft-related stuff instead of like college football and Madden. I know that those are kind of easing down a little bit, and we're getting into the season of just straight draft. I don't mind making maybe a draft big board, a top 50 players in this draft. I can spend some time doing that, like significant amount of time doing that, and we can go forward with that, and we can keep looking at different things to do related to the draft. I'm not opposed to it at all. I would love to do so, but for you to be able to keep up with that, you have to subscribe so you can keep up with all the mock drafts, keep up with all the draft content that we're more than likely going to have out with the way that you guys have been enjoying these recent videos. Love all of you guys that have been subscribing. I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.